already? Okay, I would like to call this meeting to order. This is a regular session of the Boonton Township Board of Education held for the purpose of transacting appropriate board business in compliance with Chapter 231 laws of 1975. The notice of this meeting was advertised in the Morris County Daily Record. Copies of the agenda of this meeting were appropriately posted and made available to the public.
Mrs. Varda.
Here.
Mr. Brandner.
Here.
Mrs. Cabana. Mr. Chen.
Here.
Mrs. Hermy.
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mrs. McBride.
Here.
Mr. Mills. Mrs. Nowicka. Also present, Mr. Frattini, Superintendent Principal, and I see Christopher Hillick, our student representative from Mount Lake. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And at this time, we're going to quickly modify our agenda ever so briefly and go into a very, very brief closed session. And I would like to ask for a motion to enter into executive session to discuss issues that warrant confidentiality as permitted in the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, laws of 1975. These matters may or may not be made public when the board reconvenes. They will be made public when the confidential subject is no longer warranted. The topic of discussion is the Boonton Township Mountain Lakes tuition agreement negotiations, and there will be lots of action taken when we reconvene, mainly the entire agenda. May I have that motion, please?
I'll move.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And for those that are not part of the board, if we could ask you just to wait in the hallway just for a very, very brief moment, and we won't be long. Thank you. Probably does pick that up. Okay, it is 7:54 p.m. We have returned from our closed session, and at this time, I would like to read a very brief statement. And we are pleased to announce that the negotiations committees from both of our districts, the Boonton Township and Mountain Lake School Districts, recently reached a tentative agreement on our tuition. Our districts are working out the final details, and we hope to approve an agreement at an upcoming meeting shortly. And I want to thank all the folks that were involved, our finance and negotiations committee, and all the rest of the board, because they have been involved every step of the way from beginning to end. And I want to thank you all for all of your hard work. And we're very enthusiastic and happy to move forward. So thank you. And with that, I would like to introduce Dr. Kelly Hart, our assistant principal, who is going to do a presentation on the 2023 New Jersey SLA results. I want to begin to guess at the acronym.
All right. So a quick overview, just many of you I'm sure have heard this spiel before. We take the NJSLA, which is our state standardized testing, in grades 3 through 8 for both ELA and math, and then in grades 5 and 8 for science. Our NJSLA model, as just a reminder, we go through level 1 through 5, 1 being not yet meeting expectations and moving through level 5 exceeding grade level expectations. So obviously we're looking to move into the 4 and 5 in as many areas as we can. The NJSLA science only uses 4 levels. So when you see those scores, just keep in mind you're on level 5. All right, so moving right into our big numbers, we have a lot to celebrate. Our students performed well in all of the content areas compared to our state scores, and also compared to their cohorts from previous years. So some of the things as you're looking at, I know it's a lot of numbers on one page, but things to celebrate. So we have comparison between 2023 and 2024. In 1s and 2s, you want to see zeros, or as close to it as you can get, because those are where you want to see your lower numbers. So celebrating that in grade 3, in grade 5, in grade 7, and even across all the grades, you have very few kids in level 1 in ELA, which is a really great place to kind of sit in. And then you see that in level 2 in ELA, you have still very few children. So as we move forward in our kind of like the continuum of NJSLA scores, we're moving as many kids as we can into levels 4 and 5, which is really where they should be. As we talk about and look at scores, there are some things to also remember, which we do have our enrollment numbers in our community. We just want to keep in mind that our enrollment per grade level is relatively low compared to other communities. So sometimes you could see numbers that are, I'm going to call them nominal, but when you look at like a 1.2% or like a minus 1.4, that could be because you had grade level numbers changes. We actually don't have, I don't think, any grade levels in district that would be 1%. So that just means that from the previous year, there might be less students or more students in that grade band. So while this is really great data to look at, just kind of keep that perspective in mind to look at where we're achieving. But there are also some things to really celebrate. So you want to see, again, increasing numbers. Plus 26% is huge. There's no way that's just because of grade level changes, so that's great. And same thing here at the 11.9% in grade 7. Okay, so I apologize for these being small, and certainly these will also be posted. Know that these percentages are what's on the previous page. So there's nothing new or different. As we move forward into our presentation, we'll talk a little bit about what Linkit is and how that's going to really benefit the district moving forward. Linkit creates these wonderful spreadsheets that show us all sorts of different things about data, but this kind of shows us in a very quick picture that our students are performing. We want to see green, green is great, and that we're moving forward in a really positive way. Here we have our subgroups. So again, something else to keep in mind, we can only report on subgroups that are greater than 10 students. So, we do have small subgroups here too. That said, there is a lot of equity among our subgroups in the district, so we're meeting all students equitably, whether it's in different cultures, their academic needs are being met. This is really cool, so I'm going to get to the next slide, but when you look at populations of students, there's a lot of equity as well. When you look at our special education and general education population, this is great. So this is something to really celebrate. We're still moving in a forward motion. We have things in place this year. We're really seeking to support our special education students with additional programming. But that said, this increase in achievement is a great thing to see. We want to see it continuing. This is the global entire school district from 22, 23, and 24. Our general education population is also on that upward increase. So those are some, we want to see forward mobility. That's, that means our programs are working. Okay, male to female, same thing. This is just pointing out equity. So we're meeting the needs of both male and female students, which our programs, they're, relatively consistent in subgroups. So moving right into math. Again, same things to celebrate. So as we look at our 2024 levels, we are seeing low numbers in our level 1 and level 2. And higher numbers as we get to 4 and 5. Something to keep in mind with our math programming is that we know there was a shift that all students took geometry, and that this year we've already addressed that and knew that our students are taking algebra. So programming-wise, I think you're going to see that next year, and I'm preparing for this year for the shift in that data that you will see slightly different numbers because more students will be taking algebra 1. The only area that kind of, I would say, is like my red flag is that geometry piece, but we're already addressing that, so that's a great thing to kind of think through moving forward. Again, there's a lot to celebrate, so you have great increases here, and you have students moving to level 4 and level 5, so we're seeing that shift across the math continuum as well. Lots of things. So again, this is where kind of my eye was drawn. Great performance in Algebra 1, but that's because of the students taking. It's a very small population of students, just over 10, that this was kind of the extra course. We've flip-flopped that for this year, which I do think our students going into Mountain Lakes High School will be very prepared for their math courses. And then again, you see a lot of great moving forward. There are still smaller areas to address within our math curriculum, but we are seeing at least consistency and high achievement among students. Same thing in our subgroup populations. There's relative consistency in small groups of students, both culturally and also this is our special education, general education population. So those subgroups, again, it doesn't always look like impressive scores in the sense that we would love to see these numbers keep moving up. But when you look at their achievement as a whole group, there is forward mobility, and we just want to see those numbers keep rising. And again, so this number is less concerning to me because 1% might be one student, or maybe even less than that, but we certainly want to see that keep moving. The geometry change will likely address that, I would imagine, next year. So I have a lot of really strong confidence in our teachers who made great programming recommendations, and having seen some of their instructional practices, we're putting some great things in place to keep moving things forward. And consistency among our male and female populations. Oops. All right, and then moving into science. So these, the thing to be warned about with our science scores is that they are low across the state. So we know that. What we're looking at, when you even compare our levels, we have more students than, far more than the state achievement level. So I would have questions about maybe the validity of that test for kids if that's as low as the state level is. But that said, our students are achieving like much higher than, than where the state is. So we're still seeing increased numbers in levels 3 and 4. And lower numbers in 1 and 2 as well. Our 5th grade has a lot to celebrate there too. And then this is also keeping in mind, it's tough sometimes with the science scores because there's so many years between achievement that you can't, compare 5th grade to 8th grade, which isn't always the most exciting thing to hear. But certainly our students are performing well. We have, programmatic things to address there as well. But overall, between what we're seeing here and the programming that we're seeing with our science teachers, I think, this year we'll see some growth there as well.
So do you have the state averages or like
Yes.
what? Oh,
They're coming up.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay. So the same things. There's equity, there's relative equity. We know that the scores in science were lower. So am I alarmed by a large number of like in the yellow compared to green? I'm not alarmed by it. Would I love to see green go up? Of course, everybody would. Again, so you're still seeing an increase. There are not 0 special education students, but that number is too small to report for this year because it's only 5th and 8th grade. So you don't see quite the same, upward movement. But overall, we're relatively consistent. Consistency between male and female populations. All right, so here's some comparison to the state levels. I will say this is, because this is the state template, it's a little repetitive, so just keep that in mind as well. But you're looking between the changes in level 1 compared to the state. So certainly our numbers in 1 and 2, we're looking for those numbers to be decreasing or consistent. And then the number of students in each of those areas also can impact that. And then we're looking for the changes in 4 and 5 to go up. So there are definitely things to celebrate with that 26%. And the 11.9% is huge compared to the state. Overall, most of these numbers, and as we get to the next slides, I can show you total numbers as well. One of the other things to keep in mind as we're comparing changes in state data is that when you're at a higher number, your changes are going to be different among state. There's less room for change. This is the comparison between us and the state, just in the changes from levels in 1 and 2, and then in 4 and 5. So this is kind of like skim down. You can see that here, there are definitely some areas that we differ from the state. And then, same thing, science. So before we get to the last piece, this tells us our numbers of students. So you can see like 26 to 48 is almost not comparable. When you look across grade levels, so like that 22, it's a tough number to kind of compare because you're looking at widely different populations of kids. So that just kind of gives you a perspective of, this is a little bit more consistent and you see the difference is less. So some statistical analysis would tell you like, okay, just keep that in the back of your head as we're looking at data that sometimes, unfortunately, we can't make the claims we want to claim because our numbers of students change pretty drastically. This gives the piece. This is the same numbers. The big difference here is looking at the algebra numbers and the geometry numbers. And again, that's going to change again next year. And then our science numbers. Okay. All right, so this is a little bit better for me to explain to you about as far as comparing to state levels. So when you look at really 24 numbers in level 1, our numbers are almost pretty close to 0, right? You're looking at 0 to 3.8 being the highest. At the state level in level 1, you're looking at numbers from 10 to 20. So already in level 1, we're like, whoa, we're doing it, right? And then you get to level 2, you still have that same, where we're lower than the state average. When you get up to, I'm going to kind of skip over level 3, because it's hard to say level 3. If you're moving kids out of 1 and 2, where they go. So then you have 4 and 5, we're significantly higher in every area across ELA in level 4 and in level 5. Okay. And then same thing when we get to, this just says the piece that we talked about with math being, we don't have a math 8, we have geometry and algebra. When you get to math, it's the same kind of trends what we're seeing at our district level. We're so much lower in the beginning, even than geometry, which is great. But as you move forward, you see that the geometry starts to kind of come out. So we know that that programmatic change is defended by this data. That's kind of like irrefutable. And then as we get into 4 and 5, until geometry, we walk out. But the rest of the scores are still outperforming the statewide landscape. And then level 5. So we see that same thing, we outperform in almost all the areas, and we get to that like algebra geometry kind of wackiness, but knowing that that's being addressed is great. And then we have our science scores. So this is like a real wow celebration moment. So when you take a look at our science scores, you see that we're lower than the state in 1s and 2s, but we're not just higher than the state in the 3s and 4s area, we're higher than the state by 20 and 40%, which is huge. So that's, where you kind of say, all right, we want to have programmatic change, but our level of excellence is so far different than the state that I depend more on looking at our internal measures of measuring excellence than compared to what this is telling us. We want to exceed higher than. And frankly, that's very similar to ELA and math. Okay, so that brings us to all the things we're celebrating, and also we're going to get into the stuff that's really exciting and what we're doing about it. But we talked a little bit about the 26% increase in the 5th grade, the 11.9% increase in ELA in 7th grade, some pretty significant decreases in levels 1 and 2 in 3rd grade, and 14.3% in levels 1 and 2 in 5th grade. You see an overall decrease in percent of students in level 1 and 2, overall increase in 4 and 5. And then the cool part is when you start to really dive into data and look at individual students, you see overall achievement, and that we're going kind of like that upward movement. All kids are learning, we're not unlearning, which is great. So when you're looking at cohorts of students, we're also seeing that upward mobility from year to year. And then certainly celebrating an equitable performance among subgroups of students. In mathematics, there's a ton of things to be proud of. Some of them, again, at 11.5% of students in grade 3 at level 4 and 5, 8.5% in 5th grade at 4 and 5, 6% in 7th grade, and then the decreases in 3rd grade and 5th grade. You have an overall decrease again in that 1 and 2 level. We're moving kids upward, which is that's the whole goal. We have consistency in student achievement from the previous year, which is great. So we're not, again, kids aren't unlearning, which I hope not. And then increased achievement, that special ed piece is a big piece as well. So seeing that increased achievement, we know that we made a lot of moves already to improve programming. We're going to keep doing that. We're making great strides there. And then that equitable performance among subgroups of students. So things to celebrate in science, that no students in level 1 in 5th grade, we had a 13% increase, meeting and exceeding expectations in grade 5. We've outperformed the state by 40% in 5th grade and by 20% in 8th grade. That's like a smack in the face great thing to celebrate. And then again, that equitable performance among these subgroups of students. Okay, so here's the really fun part. What are we doing about it? So I know that I haven't been here very long, and I certainly can't take ownership over the great things to celebrate, but I can be really proud of the things that we're moving towards. We've already established some things that we saw needed to be addressed, and part of that is when you have this great data, we want to see additional great sources of data being put into place. So we've moved towards a response to intervention model in support of IMRS. And what that means is that we're going to be using more data, and we're going to be supporting specific groups of data to meet the needs of individual students. So we know that we have cohorts of very small numbers of students. Rather than looking at the group as a whole, we're really in a small community able to look at individual students and what their learning goals are. So this model is letting us do that. And we've already established a data team to come up with the best things to do for kids and intervention strategies. We're working with teachers in team level meetings. And then we're working to better support students through our EIS program. Through all of this, we've also identified that there are great things we can do for specific groups of children to make them really learn all the things that they need to and keep continuing to move forward. We're looking at the students that are general education that are struggling, specifically special education students, and what programs we can adopt to better suit them. And we've also taken a clear look at multilingual learners and establishing better plans to put in place to support their continued learning and achievement. And you heard me say Lincoln, and I will at some point probably be made fun of for my love for Lincoln, but all teachers are diving in, and you may have heard students here repeat heard from other parents here that they are taking a benchmark assessment. And the cool part about it is it does correspond with NJSLA in giving us indicators that point to their success on the standardized test. But the cooler part is that it also shows us how they achieve in each standard. So when you get back that information from ELA and math, and also we're going to be pulling in science as well, we're going to have very specific information on how to dive in and really meet students where they're at and push them to that next learning goal. So when we said, okay, our scores are looking pretty good, what else can we do? We want to know more about what our kids don't and how we can continue to move them forward. So these benchmark assessments are going to be hugely impactful to their education. And the other cool piece to leave is that it gives us a data warehouse. So we've established that there were already great measures in place here very quickly to say, all right, teachers are doing those things. Now we're putting it in one place and looking at multiple measures across every student to see how we can make those data pieces connect to really drive instruction. So this is going to be really cool. So I'm personally excited, but I hope teachers are as excited as I am to kind of really get that going. And then we know additional program updates, so we're not making sweeping changes or anything like that, but we know already that there is that algebra shift in place, so keep that in the back of your head. We're certainly going to continue to focus on the implementation of the ELA standards in the science of reading, and the other piece that kind of coordinates with the integration of our data warehouse is that we've adopted additional early learning screeners. So what that tells us is by the time a student gets to third grade, this is going to be the first time they're taking a benchmark or the first time that they're getting NJSLA scores. With a new kindergarten screener that we're more formalizing and some other practices that we're putting into place for our early learners, we're going to be able to address their learning needs before it gets to the point of measuring a benchmark test. I think I'm done now.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much.
Question on the science. It
Yes.
comes up like every year. You
Sure.
had mentioned the validity of the test. In your opinion, is it just a bad test?
I'm a science teacher, so I have so many opinions and I don't want to overshare. But I don't know that it's bad. It definitely measures standards. There's some things within the standards that, depending on what grade level students learn specific information, is it most indicative of their success as a science student?
It seems like that bar is really high.
Yeah. And it might, to me, that should be something the state should look at, especially if we're outperforming by 40% and we're only getting 56%. That doesn't make sense. So that would be my take on it, but certainly, is it valid? I think the questions that they ask are still science-related questions, and our students can certainly, we can target skills still from that. So it gives us information that's valuable, but as far as a percentage score. Sure.
Thank you. And at this point, I would like to introduce our new student representative, Chris Illig. He's our student representative from Mountain Lakes High School, and welcome.
So I wanted to introduce everybody. I'm Chris Illich. I'm a senior at Mountain Lakes High. I graduated here as class of 2021, so it's great to be back. And I consider an honor to be the Mountain Lakes representative for this year. So a lot of things have been going on in Mountain Lakes. So last week we had the class of 2028 had their freshman field day, organized by the senior advisors, Mr. Don Rossi and Ms. Palachak. They did senior games with peer leaders as well as Coach Flynn, and then they all had pizza and celebrated a good kickoff to their freshman year. And then Friday, the Mountain Lakes class of 2025 had their senior picnic. Coach Flynn, again, organized games for the seniors, created a big 25 on the turf with all Mountain Lakes senior students, took photos for senior superlatives, and went for a pizza picnic afterwards. Special shout outs to Ms. Gillespie and Mr. Merritt for organizing such a fun time for the class of 2025. This Friday, the 4th annual wellness fair will be taking place. Students will be able to go to visit multiple stands to get info about nutrition, mental health, holistic care, meet with wellness experts, and talk to them directly, and it's a really great time. Friday is our Mountain Lakes Senior Night for Mountain Lakes Herd Football, as well as breast cancer awareness, as well as a celebration of life tribute to band director Miss Meredith Boynton, who battled her lifelong battle with cancer and passed away last year in August of 2023. And then college fair next week at Mountain Lakes High School, 12 to 1 p.m. with seniors and juniors. Well over 60 colleges will be in attendance from Rutgers, Delaware, Florida, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Virginia Tech. Those are a few, and then a whole bunch of others. And it's a great, especially seniors who are filling out college apps, they'll be able to meet with the representatives, ask them questions, and so that will be taking place. Also would like to acknowledge the following students who earned the National Merit Society: Megan Donnelly, Harry Jolson, Max Kahn, William Murphy, Kayla Noy, Ira Shaw, Rohan Chef, Dennis Sham. Then we have finalists Andre Lee, Eddie Lynn, and Gabby Ramirez. So that is what has been going on at Mountain Lakes Hall.
Great, well, thank you very, very much, really appreciate it. Welcome to the Board of Ed meeting, and what we tell all of our student reps, like if you have somewhere else you need to be, homework to do, we will not be offended if you leave at this point. We can probably keep you much longer than we typically would, though, with our what we proceeded, but you're welcome to stay, or...
It's all good, no problem.
And you're also, we won't be offended otherwise. Thank you. And with that, we have board business motions 1 and 2.
I'll move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
And any questions, comments, or discussion? We will have a chance to, I guess, look at the board goal, et cetera, and I'm sure it reflects what we discussed at the last meeting.
I think there needs to be an edit for board goal number 1,
Okay.
final line. Reevaluate, I'm backing up a little bit, reevaluate, implement a plan to best meet the long-range facilities, safety, and infrastructure needs of the district.
And the first line is to gain an understanding of community objectives, not objections.
That too.
So we're changing. Okay, any other comments or discussion? Yes, yeah, okay. Now you changed.
I object.
Actually, was it meant to be objections? I think it was.
I actually think it might have been.
It might have been, yes.
That's what I'm wondering, because
Thank
it
you.
works. And I thought we needed to understand why it didn't pass.
Oh,
Yeah, like the
objections of the
objections,
referendum.
yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So the only change really, the last sentence,
Actually, either one.
needs of district.
Yeah.
I think we need to understand the objections to understand
The
the negative.
objectives.
The objective.
To understand
Change it.
objective.
But the
Very
positivity is appreciated.
Yes.
Do we need a motion?
So, let's see, so we, at this point, the consensus is just change the last piece of it, board goal number 1 to change district needs to needs of the district? Is that correct?
Yes.
Sounds better.
Okay, so may I have any other discussion on the board goal, board district goals? And if not, well then if someone would make a motion to make that change. Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And now on the table are the board and district goals as corrected. Any other questions, comments, or discussion? And if not, the question is on the adoption of board business motions 1 and 2 being modified as we just voted upon. This is all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say no. Any abstentions? That brings us to administrative reports, starting with the business administrator report, secretary's report, Mr. Murray.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brander. Just a couple of items. The 25-26 budget schedule. I will hand it out as I do each year. Okay. so it's hard to believe that we're talking about the 25-26, but we're getting into budget season. It includes just an overview of where we start and where we sort of end up. September and October is really data gathering, information gathering. November, December, we receive back the input from the teachers and staff. December, we start putting all those budget requests together. January, the finance committee begins to meet. We look at preliminary budgets, we look at enrollment, we look at staffing, some of those other needs, out of district tuition and so forth. February is where we really get into public comment, and we start making presentations on the preliminary budgets. We don't have the election calendar yet as of today, so I put in a couple of tentative dates. Basically in March, April, the board will approve tentative budgets. The county superintendent approves it in mid-April, and then our public hearing would be in May, and that would be the last opportunity for the board to make any changes before it's approved. So, and again, a lot of the input comes from the administration. We talk about enrollment, staffing needs, and so forth, building the budget, and then we start our meetings with finance committee as we have some meat and potatoes to really discuss. The finance committee already met on some other matters. We talked about a summer roof project that we would be utilizing capital reserve funds. I met with the architect, virtually met with the architect and the roofing consultant to talk about the problem areas. We think preliminarily it's looking at the wing that goes down from, I guess, the fish tank, if everybody knows it, all the way down to the end of the building. That would address a number of leaks that we've been able to patch over the years. So summer roof project, the fall reports, October is the month of all the snapshots. The ASSA and the transportation report is what our state aid is based on. So they're due in November. We're gathering all information from that October 15th snapshot. The boilers were turned on this week due to some chillier temperatures. There were no leaks to report at this point, but there is one check valve that has to be replaced, and we discussed that in finance. Let's see, the 2023 audit. I do have the draft. The auditor will be presenting at the November meeting. That's on November 20th, where the board would accept it. So she'll have maybe a brief presentation, so we'll have that as an agenda item. And there is a bus evacuation drill, our semi-annual drill, which is scheduled for next week. And that's all I have to report.
Okay, great, thank you. That brings us to the superintendent's report. Mr. Pertini.
First off, thank you to Dr. Hart for a wonderful presentation. I appreciate it. Once again, thank you to Dr. Hart, because last week was the week of respect. As part of the week of respect, students were acknowledged for their acts of kindness, and the list of accommodations are to come. But all students sign a pledge of respect during lunch, and Dr. Hart was instrumental in creating activities for the students in the classrooms. Let me see. Everyone dressed for success, as we had picture day last week. On this past Monday, October 14th, Dr. Brad Siegel and I met. I toured Mountain Lake schools, met with the faculty and the administration, and we began planning for our upcoming joint presentation on conflict resolution and social emotional learning. This past week, we also met with the Special Education Parent Advisory Group. RBS hosted a meet and greet, and it was a wonderful time where parents met all of our child study team members, and I also want to thank Dr. Hart and Danielle Morgengreth for creating coverage so all the special education teachers could join us, and as well as the child study team members. So we're looking forward to having that on a kind of semi-annual basis. This week started our parent-teacher conferences, and tomorrow will be the evening conferences. Next week will be the book fair, and our website provider Presence by Frontline will no longer be supporting websites, and therefore we're going to migrate to a new website host in the upcoming calendar year. More to come on that. This Friday is the trunk or treat. Hope to see you all there. I'll be there. I think I'm judging. And I also like to congratulate Dr. Hart for securing a position as superintendent principal of Boonton Township starting in January. We posted the position online. We had over 60 applicants come through, and we'll begin the process of screening and interviewing candidates. We met with our faculty to discuss the NJSLA scores as well as inform them on our progress with Linkit. The student council has been meeting regularly, and also the academic poll met last week. We have our WIDA testing training complete, so we have someone, a staff member that is, I guess you could say, certified to provide that type of testing for any students in need who have English not as their native language. Our full sports teams are entering the final weeks of the season, so please come out and support our athletes who work so hard. For cross country, every runner in the county competes against every other athlete in their grade level. Last year, there were 810 students who participated across 3 grade levels, and that's this Thursday, October 17th. And we have championship team races. The top 5 runners and 2 alternates from each team will compete in a 3-division championship race for the overall first place trophy and banner held at Greystone Central Park on 91 Central Avenue in Morris Plains. Also on Thursday, October 24th, we have Group 1 boys and girls, and the distance is 28 meters, which is about 1.7 miles. For boys soccer, on Monday the 21st, there's a quarterfinal game, Boonton Township versus Mount Arlington at the RBA Fields at 4 o'clock. Monday the 28th is the semifinal game, and details will follow after the results of the previous games. Girls soccer, Monday 21st is the quarterfinal game. It's Boonton Township versus Mount Arlington, again at RBA Fields at 4 o'clock start time. And Friday, October 25th, is the semifinal game versus, details to follow. Best wishes to all of our student athletes and to the coaches. Thank you very much. That concludes my report.
Great, thank you very, very much. And you've all had a chance to read the nurses' report, student attendance report, and staff attendance report. And that brings us to accommodations, Mr. Fritz.
As part of the week of respect, the following students were acknowledged for their acts of kindness: Claire Kenny, Mikey Curran, Kyler Vanderstraten, Johnny Connolly, Declan Costantino, Stone Rappa, and Rocco Reggiano. Many thanks to Dr. Hart for spearheading last week's week of respect with a variety of activities that stressed respect, kindness, and community. Many thanks to Mrs. Morgenroth, the child study team, and special education instructors for the informative open house held last week. Much appreciation to those who came out to learn about our services. And Falcons of the Month for October, congratulations to, in 5th grade, Amber Wu, in 6th grade, Rhea Ennis, in 7th grade, Justin Polachek, and 8th grade, Meta Ake. Falcons of the Month are students that exhibit a dedication to learning, leadership skills, great attitude, and strong character traits who promote a positive school climate. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And you've also had a chance to read correspondence 1 and 2, so that brings us to open session number 1. The first public comment period will be limited to agenda items only. The second public comment period will be open to any topic. Please be mindful that public comment periods are available to enable the public to give comments and feedback to the board. Personal matters and day-to-day operations are not appropriate subjects for board meetings. These can always be most effectively resolved with appropriate staff members or administrators according to the chain of command concept. Questions may be directed to the appropriate school personnel or board through email. Please state your name and address for the record, and all comments are limited to 5 minutes. Does anyone from the public wish to address the board on agenda items at this time? There being no one, we will move into liaison reports, starting with the Mountain Lakes Board of Education.
Okay, they recently met on October 7th, and unfortunately I wasn't able to attend that meeting, but I have some highlights to share. Many which mirror some of the things that Chris had said about them. They had a presentation and recognition of the National Merit Scholars. And then Mr. Searles gave a synopsis of the AP scores. And so highlights from the AP scores is that even though their enrollment is declining, they're actually taking more AP tests than ever before. So they basically have 1 in 8 students in the high school achieving a 3.5. So it's very impressive. I'm just looking through. I mean, in general, they're highlighting pretty much. There's been favorable results in all aspects, from English to even computer science, which was a little bit of a concern, they doubled the number of students that were taking the exam. And strong results in English and social studies as well as STEM. The only area that was a little bit off was French. Only 4 took the test. So I think they have 12 students enrolled in AP French and only 4 took the test. But 100% received a 3 or above. So that's. Also another option that in AP is that there's self-studies. So wherever they don't offer an AP class, students are allowed to self-study and take a test, and that's new. So 4 students took Chinese, 2 took AP Pre-Calc, and 1 student took psychology. So and they all scored well with that as well. Mr. Searles also attended a college admissions workshop, and it's continuing to focus, there's a continued focus on AP scores, and that they're gaining more weight than just SATs and ACTs. Like, maybe not more than them, but comparatively, they're getting a lot more clout in the college admission process through the AP score. So they're focusing, high school's focusing on training the teachers. They'll train like 5 to 6 teachers a year on the AP classes, and they'll rotate them annually and try to continue supporting the AP programs. There was an announcement about Boonton Township agreement. They were pleased to inform that we have a tentative agreement in place, and they would like to continue the outstanding relationship between the 2 districts, and they very much appreciated the board committees from both districts that worked on the negotiations. The superintendent mentioned that he's excited also to move forward with a partnership with Boonton Township, and he's developing a nice relationship with Mr. Patini and collaborating with CPAD in the upcoming presentation. They also had district QSAC monitoring. There was a report on QSAC monitoring. And
How did they do with their QSAC?
their QSAC was good. I think it's in relative, the placement results that they got for QSAC under instruction and program was 88%, where every other area of fiscal management, governance, operations, and personnel were all in the 90%. So they are looking at reasons why that was, and I'm working on that. So that's their area to improve. There's coffee talks coming up with the superintendent. The next one's they just had one on October 9th, the next one December 3rd. And regarding facilities, there's continued progress with the cafeteria and the auditorium. And they're asking all community members to not bring pets on campus during school events. That's pretty much it. That's the highlight from it.
Great, thank you. That brings us to New Jersey School Boards Association, which is Ben. Ben is not here. I guess I can report that Workshop 2024 is next week, Monday to Thursday for those that are going. And even if you did not go, I think our board is signed up where you can access the materials for any of the offerings that they have there as well. And you can download them, and sometimes they're posted after the presentations, but there many are posted before. So, it's always a great experience to go there if you're able to. And you can learn a lot, network with other folks, get ideas, and it's a good learning experience. And that brings us to Morris County School Boards Association. I can report on it if you...
Yeah, I was just going to say, I kind of gave a preview last time. Barry, if you attended, you're welcome to go into a little bit more detail. But I did want to just announce, before you do that, and I think we talked about this last time, that Mountain Lakes Board of Education did get the Carol E. Larson Master Board Certification. So,
They may have gotten the board certification.
Oh, I'm sorry, board
Yes,
certification,
yes.
sorry. Yeah, board certification, thank you for that. And I think we talked a little bit about doing some training this year, and I know you're probably looking into that. Post-meeting, before you give the update, we send out a lot of information and folders and different attachments. The new liaison is really quite good. Robert at Sarah, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. So I'll go through some of those materials and put them out to the shared drive.
Great, thank you. So, yeah, the last meeting was held on October 2nd at the Pequannock High School, and conveniently, the Pequannock Township Board of Ed actually did receive
They
their
got it, yeah.
Carol E. Larson Master Board Certification, and then there were several other boards that received their board certifications, many were neighbors, Kinnelon, Long Hill, Mendon Township, Mountain Lakes, Netcon, and Union Charter School. And I had the opportunity to run into Joanne Markowskis at the meeting. And they also had some presentations on mental health resources for school districts, and I think you did go through these as I'm looking through it at the last meeting.
Yeah.
These are also very good events to go to. They're usually held locally. They used to be for many years held at the end of the boulevard at the mansion, but they are actually rotating around, so so everyone in the county can take advantage. And not that anyone's put out driving one way or the other, but they always put on some great presentations. Morris County has a great reputation in New Jersey for being one of the most active county associations and doing the most. And our last two NJSBA presidents came from Morris County. Irene Lefebvre from Boonton and currently Dr. Corlina from Montville. They put on some great things, and I encourage you all to go if you're able to. And with that, the Educational Services Commission.
Can I
Oh,
just
sure.
two more things, I'm sorry. The next meeting is on December 4th, and the topic, it's in Morristown, so it's rather close. Creating an effective work culture, governance, collaboration, and mentorship, so that might be one that others on the board might be interested in. And then also we have an upcoming deadline. Mr. Catini, I'm going to put this on your radar, and then I'll share information as I receive it. March 5th is the deadline for nominations for Morris County School Boards Association Unsung Heroes. And we had our first unsung hero last year. So as I receive more information on that, I'll be sharing it with you.
Great, thank you very much. And that brings us to the Educational Services Commission of Morris County. Their meeting was last Wednesday. I was not able to attend, but according to their agenda, they mostly did routine business, but one out of the ordinary thing they did do last week was they created a new position for assistant superintendent, and they appointed someone to that position. And that brings us to the Boonton Township Special Education Parent Advisory Group.
Our DISC CPAC held its first session of the new school year yesterday, during which new officers were elected. Our CPAC now has two co-presidents, Ms. Amelia Endine and Ms. Lauren Gordo. During the meeting, it was evident that everyone present was excited about the new steps being taken at RDS to improve the educational outcomes for students requiring special care. There is a renewed interest from parents in becoming more involved in their children's educational process. This shift is clearly linked to the new school leadership and the noticeable change in the overall school cultures and approach to special education. Everyone's deeply grateful for the actions taken by the new superintendent and the director of special education services, Mrs. Danielle Morganroth, as these steps align with best practices widely recognized in the field. And from the upcoming events, the next CPAC meeting will take place on November 12th at 7:30 p.m. And all are welcome to attend.
Great, thank you.
Where's that located?
This is at the church.
United Methodist Church, right?
Right, okay.
Great, thank you. And that brings us to the Boonton Township Education Foundation.
No substantial updates. The tickets for their fall that 23rd of October.
Thank you.
We have a meeting, when's the next meeting? I think it's tomorrow.
Is it tomorrow? You
Is
might
that
not
right?
know.
Boonton, I feel like I just saw an email.
Yeah.
17th.
Yes,
That is tomorrow.
tomorrow. And Dr. Siegel will be coming as well.
Which is exciting. We've never had a Mountain Lakes superintendent attending a foundation meeting, so it's very exciting. Is it here? Is it?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, in the library.
9 a.m. or, sorry.
I think so.
I should check my email.
It is, I have 8.
Oh.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that. It was created by me, so, and sometimes I give myself an ROUA.
Give it to Ish.
I
You're
put it on
right.
my knowledge and
I spelled it.
9 a.m.
If
Have you?
you'd like to have a coffee with.
That's my superintendent's roundtable.
Thank you. And let's see, that brings us to the Rockaway Valley Home and School Association.
Okie dokie, so they're preparing really in the fundraising mode right now. So we are preparing for the holiday boutique, a wreath sale, a pie holiday bake sale, and then obviously to echo Mr. Frattini's comment, the book fair is next week. And then the big showcase fundraiser this year is the fun run that they want to start planning. That's about it.
Excellent, thank you. And that brings us to the Township of Boonton.
Okay, centered around voting, all voting will be at the usual voting location, the municipal building at 155 Powerville Road. Early voting begins on Saturday, October 26th, and runs through Sunday, November 3rd. Early voting is 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sundays it's until 6 p.m. On Election Day, the polls are open from 6 a.m. till 8 p.m. There will be a voter parking shuttle for voter convenience. Everyone's urged to take advantage of the early voting to avoid any inconvenience on Election Day. Any questions can be directed to the municipal clerk, 973-402-4002.
How does the show?
Yeah, where did you get the
Yeah.
shot
So
from?
I don't know if you've driven the new, this is from what I understand, because the entrance is new, right, it's opposite. But when you park up and back, from what I understand, there's gonna be a little golf cart shuttle to downtown. Because it's up and back, there's really no parking, which
I
is
thought it
gonna
was like
make
a
it.
village or something.
Straight in,
Yeah,
yeah.
bus back and forth.
So from what I understand,
Yeah,
there'll be a
that's
little shuttle. But again, if you take advantage of the early voting, you don't have to worry about any of the busyness on election day.
Chris, folks keep asking us, is it in the trailers?
It's gonna be in the
It's in the
trailers,
trailers.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And many people have been asking, is that the new municipal building that we see now, or no?
How much was that?
Yeah. 0 tax dollars, that's good.
That sounds exciting with the shuttle.
It's at Boonton Township at the last meeting.
Yeah.
There were 8 girls that received their silver award. And we
Oh.
honored them. 7
Yeah.
of them were RBS graduates from last year.
Thank you for your service.
Well, that
Meeting
was,
for Sunlove.
well, thanks. That was my kids that went out, I had my 9th graders in there. I don't know.
That long time you did.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Excellent, well, thank you. It sounds exciting, I want to wait till election day and try that shuttle.
Let us know how it goes, Barry.
And with that, the Boonton Township Green Team.
There are no new updates to share from
I have an update. Well, thanks to the Cobarts, we have winterized and one of my kids, we winterized the gardens this last weekend from 1 to 3. And we were done in like an hour and a half, and it was beautiful. And
Yeah, it was a
all
good
the weeds are
weekend,
out.
right?
Yeah, it was beautiful.
So you just take out plants from this
We took,
year?
took out all the plants and they rototilled and like aerated the soil. And we got rid of one of the compost bins that weren't being used and really cleaned it up. It looks nice. That's all ready for next year. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. And that brings us to facilities and transportation. There are no motions, and I don't believe there are any meetings. Which then brings us to finance, which did meet recently. Joy.
Yeah, the finance committee met on Monday. The topics were largely the items, the standard items that you see on the agenda, but the big one Mr. Murray already mentioned was talking about starting the replacement on the roof in that one section. And then we had a broader discussion about facilities in general, and just kind of picking up again now, what needs to be done to run the facility, a long-term plan, and see what we need. So just a good discussion on that and more to come, I guess, between facilities and finance.
Great. Thank you. And with that, may I have a motion for finance motions 1 through 6?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Murray has to call this eye. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Okay, if not, the questions on the adoption of finance motions 1 through 6. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say no. Any abstentions? And that brings us to personnel. The personnel committee did meet this morning.
Yep, so just an overview, as we talked about the assistant principal job description and the position and, the status of that, and then status of substitute pool of teachers. Substitute teachers.
Thank you. And with that, may I have a motion for personnel motions 1 through 3?
Move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or discussion? If not, the questions on the adoption of personal motions 1 through 3, this is a roll call.
Mrs. Barda?
Yes.
Mr. Brandon?
Yes.
Mrs. Cabana?
Yes.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Mrs. Hermy?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. McBride?
Yes.
Mrs. Nowick? Motion carried.
Thank you. That brings us to program curriculum. The program curriculum committee did meet yesterday morning. We did discuss the NJSLA results, and Dr. Hart gave us a preview of the presentation that you saw tonight. It was an excellent presentation. Once again, thank you. And we also, Mr. Patini also discussed the coordination with Dr. Siegel regarding the district calendars for our districts. So he's working now to establish calendars. Hopefully they're very consistent between two districts with a great working relationship. And we also talked about Canvas, the use of Canvas within the school district. And with that, may I have a motion for program motions 1, 2, and 3?
Move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any questions, comments, or discussion? And if not, the questions on the adoption of program motions 1 through 3. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say no. Any abstentions? And that brings us to policy. The policy committee met recently.
Yes, last week, and we went over the job description for superintendent principal. We really truly compared line by line our description compared to the New Jersey school boards, and we found some differences, but there wasn't a lot. There was 2 lines, which we integrated. Other than that, we adopted or agreed to the job description for the New Jersey school boards. Other than we added the affirmative action officer, I believe was it, we added that section to the description. Other than that, that's what we discussed, and that was all.
Great, thank you. And with that, may I have a motion for policy motion number 1?
I'll second.
And is there any questions or comments or discussion? There's no need to call that one. If not, the questions on the adoption of policy motion number 1, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say no. Any abstentions? And that brings us to the second public comment period. The second public comment period will be open to any topic. Please be mindful that public comment periods are available to enable the public to give comments and feedback to the board. Personal matters and day-to-day operations are not appropriate subjects before meetings. These can always be most effectively resolved with the appropriate staff members or administrators according to the chain of command concept. Questions may be directed to the appropriate school personnel or board through email. Please state your name and address for the record, and all comments are limited to 5 minutes. Would anyone from the public wish to address the board on any matter? There being no one, we'll move into old business. Is there any old business to come before the board? If not, I'm trying to think, do I have any old business? I can probably mention that upcoming, consistent with our board and district goals, if you're, with all of your approval, if I can schedule Charlene Peterson to do some New Jersey School Boards training at November or December meeting, if you're all okay, I can go ahead and schedule that. I think we already came up with an idea for what it was going to be, but I've forgotten.
Do you have a list from last year that we're
Yeah.
still kind of knocking away?
Oh, I think it was the labor, since we have the, BTA negotiations.
That was it.
So I
Nice,
think
yeah.
they offer a training for like labor negotiations, so I think that was that came up in prior discussion, so if you're all okay, I can possibly arrange that for November, December. And also, I guess it would be old business, I have to send out an email to all of you to ask for volunteers for the ad hoc negotiations committee to negotiate with the Boonton Township Education Association. The contract expires at the June of 2025. So I'll be doing that shortly, and then that process probably may or may not start November, December, January, but just to have a group in place and ready to go.
Do you want us to email you if you're interested?
Sure, I'll ask you, but if you do that in advance, that's okay too.
Do we want to tell you we're not?
Or not?
We're not. Yes. Or you can respond or not. And I think that's all the old business I have. Is there any new business to come before the board?
There is actually. I just wanted to put something on the table and kind of hear your feedback on an idea that I have been considering. I thought it would be amazing if we could offer our students additional opportunities for extracurricular involvement, particularly opportunities that are just free of charge, not something that a parent would have to pay for. And I thought about tapping into, I'm sure there are a lot of people in this neighborhood, in this community who are just experts in their field. They have amazing skills, practical knowledge, practical skills. They do interesting things in their lives. Let's say people who are excellent at sewing, cooking, people who program, people who do gardening, people who play instruments, people who teach yoga. And so I thought about basically mobilizing these people and inviting them to volunteer their time and their knowledge and their skills for our students. And I thought about reaching out to the community via a survey and seeking individuals like that. I don't know if there would be volunteers, but I just wanted to kind of hear your thoughts on that, how you guys feel about it, if that's something that we should, if that's one direction that the board could pursue. And then I also spoke with Mr. Fatini, who was amazing, and he said he would be absolutely open to that idea, even though it means additional work for him in order to facilitate all of that on his end. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
I have a lot of thoughts. I think it's a great idea. I mean, I love the idea of engaging the community. I think that's beautiful. I think that given what people's skills are or what their schedules are, the only concern I have is that it mirrors some of the things that maybe our Ed Foundation provides in the after-school programs. And maybe if it's something that they wanted to get paid for, they could join them and do, if they wanted to do it on that schedule. You know, they do like 8 weeks, 3 times a year. That's fine, but if they want to do something else for free, I think that's wonderful too. You know, so I just want to be mindful of that. I think that's a wonderful idea.
With the Ed Foundation, do they have to go through the fingerprinting and all that?
That was my question too.
Right, so-
Legality.
Security.
Let me jump in on this for a second. So this would fall under this is my administrative purview. She brought it up to me because
Right.
these are like clubs. If you're gonna do something like this, as far as volunteering, it's gonna have to fall under my purview. If you're gonna do it under the Ed Foundation, then we're just gonna call that after-school activities, and
Okay.
people pay for it and things like that.
Right.
So I'm very familiar with this area, which is one of the reasons why I was excited about it. I've had a lot of experience doing Math Kangaroo, parent volunteers, chess club, parent volunteers, Math Olympiad, karate, yoga, and
How about some gardening?
kindergarten. So all these parents were volunteers, and they themselves have come in on their own time. They got their own background checks. Some of them actually got substitute teaching licenses so that they can be alone in a classroom with children. That's one of the things. So there are logistical pieces that are involved. But again, if we're going to go that route, it'd have to be under my purview. It wouldn't be able to be like another parent doing an extra after-school activities type thing. Then it's in competition with our fundraising efforts from the Ed Foundation. So again, we don't want to like spread the kids all across all areas, but if we do get one yoga instructor that's going to have a wonderful time with the kids before school program, that's fantastic. I mean, that's a win-win all around, and it's free of charge. It's the same thing that I would do with my karate program. It's at night, after the after-school activities, it's free of charge for everybody, and it doesn't, exclude anyone. So if she has those resources, they would have to come to me, and then we would have to work out the logistics.
Sounds good, yeah, so.
Yeah, I vote.
So how do you think to proceed? Like, would it be,
So I
how
thought
do
about
you do a survey, you said, or?
basically, announcing the idea and the search for interested people who would like to do that via a flyer that could go with virtual backpack, and then also reaching out to Township and having it, publicized via the newsletter.
Yeah, so I guess I'll let Mr. Pertini explore the opportunities and, and your ideas and see.
It's just, it would be wonderful if students had additional opportunities to spend their time productively. We all know what they do when they get home. It's either their cell phone or video games or some type of screen, and it's not very, they don't grow, it doesn't encourage them in any way, it's not social. I don't feel it's very beneficial, and there are kids only once, so giving them the opportunity to meet other people and to do something engaging, to try different things.
Intergenerational, it's really.
I think it would be amazing. Let's see what we get, if we get anyone even, but it's just an idea.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, great idea. Thank you very much. And with that, is there any other new business to come before the board? If not, may I have a motion to enter into executive session to discuss issues that warrant confidentiality as permitted in the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Laws of 1975. These matters may or may not be made public when the board reconvenes. They will be made public when the confidentiality of the subject is no longer warranted. We have two topics. One is continued discussion on the Boonton Township Mountain Lakes tuition agreement, negotiations, and two, student matters. And there will be no board action taken when we reconvene other than during the meeting. And with that, may I have a motion, please? Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And with that, thank you all for coming, whoever doesn't get back. 9:40 p.m., we've returned from our closed session. At this time, there is no other board action. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much for coming. We'll see you at the next meeting.